And hello, everybody. Welcome to a breaking news alert here on Narrative. We're just going to break down these new emails that arrived from the Democrat Oversight Committee, the Democrats represented on the Oversight Committee in the House. They've released three shocking emails this morning, each of them exposing how Jeffrey Epstein was connected to Donald Trump in various ways. These are quite stunning finds. Of course, we've known that there's been a connection between these people for a very long time. Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump. But these are the first time we've seen these come out in Epstein's own words, in Epstein's own emails, as real evidence that we are tracing now for the first time. So I'm going to break these down one by one, and maybe Lev Parnas will join us as well in a few minutes. If he does, that'll be helpful because he'll give us some political insight into what was going on at the time. Of course, he was part of the Trump world at this time. So a significant expert in terms of understanding what was happening at this time. There are three actual emails involved here. And we're going to go through each of them. The three emails were sent between 2011 and 2019. They show Jeffrey Epstein explicitly stating that Trump knew about the girls, and he asked Ghislaine Maxwell to stop. Now, we're going to speculate about what that really means, to stop what. But those were these emails that arrived, three of them now, between 2011 and 2019. One email reveals that a victim spent hours with Trump at Epstein's house. We don't know exactly what that means. What was she doing in Epstein's house? And what exactly does he mean later on when he talks about never mentioned her in testimony? And another shows Epstein and journalist Michael Wolff strategizing about how to leverage Trump's denials for political currency during the 2016 presidential campaign. So all of these are really fascinating because they provide a real purview into the world of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump at a time when well, up until now, they've denied any connection at all. But obviously, there is much more to the story than we realize. I'm going to be joined now by Lev Parnas, who's joining us. Hey, Lev, how are you doing?
Hey Zev, how are you, my brother? Give me just
I have a hard
literally
time
one
hearing you. Give
minute
me one
because for
second. I'll
some
plug
reason
you
when
in.
we're in this platform, I need to put my headphones on. I can't hear anything you're saying. I don't know if you could hear me.
I'm sorry.
So just bear with me for one more minute.
You can't hear
My
me?
wife went to grab my headphones and I'll be right with you. But incredible stuff happening
Okay, I'm having a
today. I
hard
can't
time
wait till
hearing
we
you.
go
So give
into
me
it. I
one
mean,
second here. Let me just see if
I
I
was
can
just on
fix
the
this.
phone again.
Um,
I was on the phone in the morning, then I was
Joys
on
of
we went
live
live
television.
with Dean
There you go.
Blundell.
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Oh, you hear me? Oh, one second. Let me see.
Maybe you guys didn't hear me all the way from the top. It's quite possible you didn't hear me from the top.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me? Lev, can you
Oh,
hear
I
me?
hear you perfect. You hear me?
Okay, there you are.
Yeah. You hear me?
Yeah, I
Okay,
might
there
have
we
had
go.
my
Perfect.
microphone off the whole way through. I'm not sure, but let me start again by saying that there's these three shocking emails that have come out from House Democrats. Lev will rejoin us hopefully in a second. That reveal three dramatic things about Donald Trump at three different times, and this is the really interesting thing. We've never had correspondence, actual evidence showing Donald Trump connected to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell talking about the girls, and now we have that for the first time. Lev, you're still coming in on the signal here, so we'll just let it settle a little bit. But can you hear me? No, you can't.
I hear you. Yeah,
Okay, I can
I
hear
hear you.
you. I don't.
You hear
Your
me?
videos is not moving, but that's okay. We'll get that fixed in a second. Let me just
Sure.
ask you. You've seen these emails, and we'll go through them one by one here. It's the first time that we've connected Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein and the girls in this overt way. Now, obviously, we've all known about it in the past, but it's the first time we have seen it. What is your thoughts as you've seen these emails for the first time? What did you think of as you were seeing them? Is this evidence enough that can implicate Trump in the way that many of us hope it will?
Oh, absolutely. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, listen, we've been reporting on it and talking about it for. I mean, you've been doing it for years,
Mhm.
and let's understand that. And we always said when the Epstein files breaks, you're going to see Donald Trump all over the place. He was very close with Jeffrey Epstein, but now what these emails are starting to show is the major cover up that we've been watching,
Mhm.
because you could see Maxwell, the lying that Maxwell did with Trump's attorney to be able to get the sweet deal that she got to get moved over, because she perjured herself on everything she just said to him. She didn't know Trump. The other thing that is very interesting in just one of these emails that we've known is Trump kept boasting to everybody that he's never been to Epstein Island. Well, now we place him in Epstein's home with a victim
Hmm.
for several hours. So these are very damaging, and the time frames are, I think, even more damaging because you're going back to some of these emails going back to 2011,
Yeah.
but some of them are going back to 2015. This is right as Donald Trump was running for president. This is what my time when I was coming
That's why I'm
when I
so
was running.
interested in talking to you about it, because you were there at this time, and let's go by one step by step, and just go through these directly, and hopefully you'll rejoin us again, Lev, because I think you had an issue there with your video. In the meantime, I'm just going to read through these emails for everybody so they can see exactly what we're dealing with here. The first email sent on April the 2nd, 2011. You can see the date on the screen there now. It says April 2nd, Saturday morning, it's Saturday afternoon, it's 2:25 in the afternoon in 2011. And that's when this email is being sent. As I just reconnect Lev here, hopefully we can get to see his video working this time. Um, there you are, Lev. You with us? Yeah, there you go. I'm just going to
Mhm.
read through these. This is at 2011, April 2nd at 2:25 p.m. in the afternoon. And in this email, it's from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine, G Max, and it says, I want you to realize that the dog hasn't barked. That I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. I spent hours or someone, sorry, victim spent hours at my house with him. Never mentioned. I'm just going to pull this a little bit further away so I can see the entire thing. Sorry about that. But he has never once been mentioned. So what do you think he's talking about there? He says victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there.
Absolutely. I'm just texting for some reason. My probation officer just texted me and said he wants to come see me in 10 minutes. This is interesting, right? So
It is interesting.
this is a coincidence timing. I don't know what the hell is going on. But listen, I mean, it's telling you in black and white exactly what Epstein is talking about. He's complaining to Maxwell, basically saying, listen, I'm getting, going through these prosecutorial things on all of these things. But meanwhile, Trump is staying quiet. He's not around. While one of the victims that probably is tied into because we don't see a name to to Epstein
Epstein, yeah.
is also tied into Trump, and that's why he's naming her. They're saying, he spent time with her also in my house. Why is he staying quiet? Why is he not being involved in this? And then you see Maxwell responding, saying, I thought this. What did she say? I'm thinking the same thing, or something like that.
She says, yeah, basically, she responds by saying, I've been thinking about that, which is above here on this email. So the first part of this email, I'll zoom it out. So you've got the implication here, at least that I'm reading, is that Donald Trump may have been part of the investigation against Lev Parna, against Lev, I think your audio is coming through, against
Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein. And so what I think I'm reading into this is the notion that this victim, who has also been talking about Jeffrey Epstein, has also not mentioned Donald Trump, even though he'd spent hours with this victim at that house. So the name that hasn't been mentioned in when they talk about the dog that hasn't barked, the name that hasn't been mentioned is what they're saying to authorities is Donald Trump. That's very interesting. We remember in 2006 when the first arrest happened for Jeffrey Epstein. He was pretty much convinced, and has been for a long time, that Donald Trump was going to be the one who turned him in, even though he was implicated in a lot of the things. He was also thought he was the one who turned him in 2008. Now, there was
That's
never
it.
in 2006 and 2008. Now, this was never proven by anybody, but it was always his suspicion, and it's always the thing that Michael Wolff has always pushed as well. That storyline, and that seems to tie in here. That maybe this is how they were trying to understand why Donald Trump was escaping the investigation while um, while Ghislaine and Epstein himself were involved in that investigation. What's your sense of that?
Well, I have more than a sense, just knowing the players involved and watching how everything played out afterwards. I mean, you could see that, Epstein was upset, saying, "Why is he, being dragged into this stuff?" and Trump staying out of it. Later, you see, we hear the rumblings of Epstein saying that Trump, turned on him and gave evidence. You have all of this stuff, and at the end of the day, remember who handled this Epstein case. It was Acosta. And then
Mhm.
remember who became, part of Trump's team right
That's a
after
very good
Trump
point.
became
You're making a very good point
Acosta.
there.
Exactly. So what we need to do, I always say, keep your eye on the ball. A
Mhm.
lot of pundits out there today are going to be telling you the same thing, repeating, regurgitating. But I'm saying to you, don't listen to what they say. Watch what happened and what was done, and what is being done. Who's covering it up? Donald Trump right now.
Mhm.
Why? So I think what we're starting to see is that Donald Trump was part of maybe the cover up going back then, protecting himself and maybe laying out Epstein. Because the other thing, which is very important, that if you start connecting the dots,
Mhm.
is who arrested Epstein? Donald Trump. It
Yeah,
was
we
Bill
are going to
Barr.
get there. And in fact, 2019 is a really interesting timeline. I don't want to jump there right yet, but you're raising a very important point. Just in terms of 2011, let's look at this timeline here because it's very useful to understand what's going on here. A few weeks before this Epstein exchange with Ghislaine about Donald Trump, the dog that hasn't barked, is when the Mail on Sunday exposed the Prince Andrew Epstein connection. They began exposing Virginia Giuffre's, connection to Prince Andrew and that whole, honey pot basically is what happened. Um, and so Epstein emails Ghislaine, Trump is the dog that hasn't barked. And then, so those are the two initial emails that we see. Now let's get into the second set of emails, which is 2015. And this one involves Michael Wolff. And it's interesting to see a name like Michael Wolff, who has many, who's a controversial figure in this. Sometimes he's been considered um, a real, person on who's has access and truth on his side. At other times, you can see that he's also spinning the other side and helping them in different ways. So it's not always clear where Michael Wolff stands. But in this particular email, and I'll just try zoom in here for everybody so everyone can read it with us. Um, that's about as good as I'm going to get it, I'm afraid. Let me see if I can just quickly push this a little bit so we get a better view. No, that's about it. So this is Michael Wolff on the 16th of December, 2015. And it's from Michael Wolff to Jeffrey E. at this GEE vacation, which is an email we all know quite well for people who have been spending a lot of time researching this man. This is a particularly recognizable email address. He says it's an importance high. I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the home, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt. Of course, it's possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey's a good guy, a great guy, and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. This is 2015. This is him running for president. This is about as close to the presidential campaign as you can get. And it's a time when you were there. Weren't you in his orbit at that time?
Yeah, yeah, no, I was definitely in his orbit at that time. I didn't meet Epstein or didn't hear of his name coming up in those times, or Michael Wolff. If I did, believe me, I would be right now breaking all of this stuff. But I could tell you that what it does also open up, and what we could see that was transpiring, is the way, again, what you reported on and what we spoke about Epstein being. He is somebody that collected material on people to be able to not bribe them, but to extort them, to use them for different things. And now he's actually telling Michael Wolff, This is what you need to do. You have information on him. I'm giving you that you basically, Trump's going to deny that he knows me. Trump's going to deny and lie that he was on my plane. He's giving him the formula where you could now use this, Michael Wolff. He's telling him in a way to be able to give yourself with the probably the next president of the United States, or if not, obviously Donald Trump is a very wealthy and individual at the same time. So they were already discussing, and that's why I can't wait to speak to Michael Wolff and to see what Michael Wolff did with that. And at that time, what transpired. But it's this is playing out, and I could tell you a lot bigger than we even anticipated.
Right, because when you look at the context here, this is now the rest of this email. So, um, the night before, I guess at 11:52, sorry, at 8 p.m. the night before, this is Michael Wolff saying to Jeffrey Epstein, I believe, I hear CNN is planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in a scrum afterwards. So I think this is the debate night on December 15th, 2015. Was there a debate that we know of in December 15th? I'm going to just try to pull up the timeline here and see if that helps us identify.
December 15th. Wasn't that? Wait a second. Oh, no. December 15th. That was, he just announced.
It says
He
in
just
my timeline
announced.
here, this is that Michael Wolff emails Epstein, CNN planning to ask Trump about Epstein relationship during debate. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but it seems to be during the Republican primary. So the
Maybe,
Republican Trump surges to the
maybe the
front.
Republican part. Maybe they're in
Right.
the Republican part. Yeah, because right. I'm thinking about the
Right.
presidential day, but there was the yes, yes,
So
yes.
now
Okay,
we're
you're
like, if you
right.
put yourself
This is
in that time
yes,
frame of
yes, yes,
you're in the
yes.
Republican presidential campaign in the primaries. Trump announced his presidential campaign June 16th of 2015. In July of that year, he's now the front runner in the Republican primary. And then he's got this election night on CNN. And Michael Wolff emails Epstein saying that they're going to ask you about Epstein relationship during the debate. Wow, that's a big thing.
See, see,
I don't think they did.
that
They
that
didn't do
that,
that.
that that's a huge thing. And but now it makes sense why, because I was so close in that whole world, why I would have not heard of any of it, because I entered that world in October of 2015,
Right.
2016 actually,
Okay.
October of 2016, when we held that dinner for him. I've hung out with Trump in 15 and then went to some of the rallies, but my relationship with him in 2000 October of 2016, and then going on was where it really solidified after that dinner we had with them. So that now it makes sense why none of this
Rings a bell for you, but
rings a bell.
but it does
Correct.
in fact. It's interesting that CNN was planning to ask. Now they didn't ask about it, so that's interesting too. Why didn't they ask about it? And then the thing that really strikes me here is, why is Michael Wolff acting as PR advisor to Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, surely they had a friendship for a very long time. In my interview with him the other day, he spoke about the way they used to hang out together, make money together, almost like it was very flippant, not realizing, of course, maybe the implication of them working in business together would have meant they're committing crimes in business together potentially. And then he also spoke about seeing these photographs, these famous photographs that Michael Wolff claims that Jeffrey Epstein showed him, that came from the safe of Jeffrey Epstein, and it was of Donald Trump with girls around him, underage girls, and this famous stain on his pants or whatever it was, and they were all laughing. That seems to me like this would have all been part of the same kind of conversation that Epstein and Michael Wolff were having over the years. That almost I seems to be like Epstein's trying to protect. Michael Wolff is trying to protect Epstein. Is that your sense of this?
Well, I have a lot of questions for Michael Wolff. I know we were supposed to. I went on with him with Michael Cohen a week ago, and I've been trying to get a whole reach until he wanted to. He said that he would be willing to come out with me, and we were going to go do a show together. And because I have a lot of questions, absolutely. Because first of all this information that we're hearing in 2025, I mean, he was aware of it in 2015.
Yeah,
He was aware of it in 2016. So he was aware of it in 2020 when the insurrection happened and all of the stuff. He was aware of it when Epstein committed suicide
yeah.
or got killed, whatever you want to call it. He was, so there was a lot of things that have transpired over the years, including the death of Virginia Giuffre that prior to that, where she was still alive, that, where she could have validated a lot of the stuff that, her and Michael. So yeah, it is, I don't want to go out there and attack Michael Wolff
No, I
for,
don't think it's
right now.
we can yet,
You know,
but I think it's really interesting that
but definitely this email right now puts a totally different view of it, because what did Michael Wolff do? I mean, with that information in 2000, because he was writing the book, so he kept going through. I mean, so and then interesting how this whole thing is playing out right now with the lawsuit against each other with the Melania stuff.
right, right.
So
That is interesting. It's very interesting that that's the way that's happening, and that lawsuit, of course, adds a new layer of intensity to this whole question around their relationship, because that is, of course, what the that entire court case would be about. So let's just review this one more time, if we can. I think you should let him hang himself. I think you should let Trump hang himself, is basically what he's saying. If Trump says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. So it gives Epstein valuable PR and political currency. In other words, he might be able to help the other side bury Trump, or it might help other people in the presidential Republican primary bury Trump. So then he says, you, Epstein, can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, Epstein. Or if it really
is
looks
that
like,
is that Wolf? I'm sorry. Is
yeah,
that
this is
Wolf
Wolf talking to
give
to
so
Epstein.
Wolf is the one giving Epstein advice
Yes,
about how he could bury Trump.
yes,
Interesting.
and how he could be political currency with the other side, either other Republicans or Democrats, presumably, to gain that currency. And if it really looks like Trump could win, you could save Trump, generating a debt, of course. So he's also saying you also hold some cards that you could help save Trump. Now, of
But
course,
see, this is the interesting part. That means he would have to lie and cover up for Trump, and he would have to go expose other people against Trump.
yeah,
So Michael Wolff is basically right now saying, I mean, put you this out. I know this sounds crazy, and I don't want to. What's it called? But one of my charges was conspiracy, and conspiracy is like, that's a pretty damaging email. I could tell you that much.
yeah, it does
Very.
seem like they're. Yeah, that could in fact be something like that. And then he goes on to say, you could be generating a debt, of course. So that's the phrase there that would be really
if he
interesting to any
if he
prosecutor.
becomes if he becomes president.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say, "This is Trump will say, Jeffrey's a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime." Now, he did in fact say he's a great guy many times
Yep,
in front of the press, and he did say, like girls on the younger side. He also said very nice things about Ghislaine Maxwell,
yep,
who's
yep.
also currently, not saying anything bad about Donald Trump, who might have also generated a debt with Donald Trump, which is why she might be facing clemency right now, and living in luxury at this camp. So,
I reported on it today, and I broke some of the news inside that it's not only that she putting for clemency, that I'm hearing that she is now, especially with the information that's coming out, because I guess her lawyers were aware that there was a dump coming, and you have to keep in mind that she knows that this
mm,
stuff exists. She knows that, because her lawyers, Trump might not remember everything, and and might not know, because some of these emails are not to him but are about him, concerning his actions. But she knows, she was on those emails. She was his right hand. She was aware of everything that was going on. And think about what she testified, not to, well, testified with what's his name,
Todd
with
Blanche.
Todd Blanche. I mean, basically saying that not only that Trump was never around, she never seen. Now we have her in his house with a victim.
Mhm.
We also have her confronting that she was aware of everything that Trump was aware of everything her, Maxwell, and him were doing at Mar-a-Lago with the girls.
Yeah, that's the
You
next
know,
email, which is just a
which
really
we're gonna get. Yeah,
tantalizing email. And before we get
yeah,
there, I just want to
yeah,
place this in the
yeah,
timeline here, because
yeah.
Trump announced his presidential campaign in 2015. Then we see that he's surging to the front. Then comes this potential question at the presidential campaign, and then you get this political currency advice. And then just to wrap that up, December 2015, there's no ultimate question afterwards or in the scrum for Donald Trump about Epstein. And now this bombshell email that is email number 3 that will show up here in a second, I hope. Let me do it this way. Oh no, let me. This is email number 3. So, sorry. That's the Michael Wolff email. This is the Mar-a-Lago email. So, this one is dated, and I'm having a hard time keeping it frozen on this page, but it's 2019, and you've got, again, it's from Jeffrey to Michael Wolff, and it says, victim Mar-a-Lago, and then there's another thing that's redacted here, and it says, Trump said he asked me to resign, never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the
Yep.
girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. So he says he knew about the girls. That's a significant thing. He's talking about Donald Trump knew about the girls. And then he also says here that he asked him to resign. Resign from the club? Is that what they're referring to Mar-a-Lago?
Well, this is the interesting part because he says he was never a member.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I was speaking when me and Dean went live. I was also never a member. Rudy Giuliani's not a member. Uh, that just shows how close he was with him because very few people don't have to have a membership in Mar-a-Lago to be able to go there, spend time, go to events, be invited to go there. You have to be very close to Donald Trump.
Right.
Otherwise, everybody there has a membership. And that's why for him to say, I think he was like mocking him, saying that he said that he got rid of him. I never had a membership. I'm saying
Yeah.
he knew we were, that was how close he was. So there's, I think knowing these people, and if you really, really into it, this is really, really some damaging stuff
Very
when it
damaging.
comes to Donald Trump, because yes, you might look at, and I know MAGA is going to try to turn this into, oh yeah, this is Epstein speaking with somebody, it's not Trump acknowledging or whatever. But you got to understand, if knowing Trump, knowing that world of people, and knowing, as well through investigating Epstein the way you did, you could start. It's very easy to then start piecing by listening to the conversation that they're having, and it all starts making sense by connecting the dots. And that's why it's very important to what you're doing right now, Zev, by connecting the dots.
It's so important to remember that Trump on that plane on Air Force One a few months ago, he said recounted the story of telling Epstein and Ghislaine that they couldn't be a member at the club anymore because they had stolen his property or something like that. It's stolen a
Yeah,
girl. I think
Virginia,
they're
Virginia
referring
Gifford,
to the same event
Virginia.
here. I think.
Well, yeah,
Um,
they were talking about Virginia Gifford.
yeah,
I
and this
mean,
is so talking about Virginia then in this potentially this email, which is dated 2019, which is interesting because why are we seeing all this at the same time as Prince Andrew loses his title? You know, out of the blue, a few weeks ago, Prince Andrew loses his title. This is not the king's wishes.
I don't think anything out of the blue, Zev, because you gotta understand something, my brother. You know better than anybody investigating all of me living in this world. People, the MI6, MI5, all of these, organizations. It is known. This information that we're seeing and hearing. I mean, the what's it called? United Kingdom knew it. The Crown knew about
Oh yeah,
stuff like this.
they
They
would
were
know.
just holding it, and now they knew it's about to come out. So they were smart. They were preemptive. They knew it's going to come out. They knew they couldn't hold it any longer. And there's probably, which we are almost uh, positive, a lot more damaging stuff about Prince Andrew's going to come out, about all of this. So they took the step ahead to be able to isolate themselves from him when this hits.
Yeah, this
Trump
is a
took
very.
yeah. Go
So
ahead.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, it's interesting. This is a coordinated rollout, is what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, this wasn't a, there's no coincidence that all of a sudden 2 weeks ago they just dropped Prince Andrew. No, they know because remember, Maxwell's family is from the UK. Maxwell has huge ties to the UK. Maxwell right now is also playing games. Who knows what information she's leaking to the UK authorities and the kingdom to be able to get favor there. Also, while she's doing it for them to do this, saying that this is going to come. Because remember, Maxwell knows all this stuff. This is
Maxwell
what
is
people have
friends
to
with Prince
understand.
Andrew, has always
Right?
been friends with
Yeah.
Prince Andrew,
Correct.
and
Exactly.
also as a part of the royal family since she was as a
100.
childhood friend. So
100%. This
she
is not
knows what's going
coincidence.
on. Yeah, and they know it
Maxwell,
too.
and that's why what I wrote in my Substack today, and why it's important for everybody, because right now everybody's concentrating on the Epstein files. Right now, what I'm going to demand here now, and when we get off this, I'm going to start, making phone calls. Giselle Maxwell should be right now to picked up, transferred into a maximum security prison.
Mhm.
She should be charged with a slew of extra, lying to the government and all kinds of other things. Put back into a prison and start there. That's the first thing that should happen.
Because she's a
That's the very
flight
first.
risk, isn't she? I mean, at this
She's a
point,
fly risk.
she
Absolutely.
can walk out
That's
of
the
there
first thing.
probably.
100%. So that's why that's the first thing that should happen right now. That's we should be talking about. Due to the, right now, this is factual. The second thing that should happen about is we should have Congress and put pressure on getting Todd Blanche in front of them alive, just like Jamie Raskin was asking. But we should right now start putting pressure on every single congressman, congresswoman, senator out there. To this is a bipartisan. This is not something that left or right. This is now black and white. We have Todd Blanche is taking an interview from Maxwell where she basically lied and said that she knows nothing about Trump. Now we have emails that are in black and white talking about Donald Trump's involvement in there. He needs to be accountable. He needs to be in front of the screen right now, in front of the people, not behind closed doors, but in front of the people, being asked the questions and not being allowed to filibuster like all the rest of them do when they get up there. And that's up to us, the people, because what we did on the 7th, I mean, I'm sorry, on the 4th, on November 4th, we need to keep riding that. It needs to, that momentum, that strength, that power, that loudness that we come out, that has to keep going. That's why right now we need to flood those phone lines. Johnson's phone line should be lit. He should be. I'll be surprised if they don't prolong the, what's it called,
The shutdown. I think. I
the
mean, I think that
order, yeah, to be able to get the congresswoman in there.
Adelita
To
Grijalva is
yeah,
being
yeah,
sworn in this
yeah.
afternoon, as you know,
That's yeah.
and that vote should happen soon after she's sworn in. Now, the important thing just of this last email, and I just want to underline how significant this date is. This is January the 31st, 2019. Now, when you look at the timeline of what happened January 31st, 2019, this is what comes out. So, November of 2018, the Perversion of Justice series comes out. That's the Julie K. Brown series. December, federal prosecutions reopen into Epstein. Now comes that email about Trump saying that he asked the girls to stop, which is interesting and means that he knew about the girls. February 21, 2019, federal judge rules prosecutors violated victims' rights in the 2008 case, meaning they're reopening the case. Soon after that, in 2019, on July 6th, I think it says that. I might be reading that incorrectly, but Epstein was arrested on federal sex trafficking charges. This is Trump's DOJ arresting Epstein on July 6th or 9th there, 2019. And of course, he died, a month or so later when he was found in MCC. And then they said it was suicide, but of course, there's really big questions about whether it was
Right.
suicide. So connect those dots with this email here. Now you have this email showing up on the 31st of January, where he's consulting Michael Wolff about what Donald Trump is saying about Mar-a-Lago and this victim's testimony at Mar-a-Lago. And we know that this is the year that a few months later, he was arrested and then ultimately was found dead. Now, there's lots of stories about what happened in while he was in jail, in custody. Steve Hoffenberg told me directly during that time that Epstein was cooperating with authorities. He was giving them the information before he died. Now that we know some of that information may have included Donald Trump, well, that's a whole
And
different
there, and here, and
thing.
this is where it gets even more dangerous, because if he was talking, if your investigation, which I think is 100% right, because it even makes more sense, because the gatekeeper to protect Donald Trump was Bill Barr.
Hmm.
I got just like he arrested me in 2019, a few weeks after he arrested Epstein, and after, or a month afterwards. The same way, it was all to shut up. So when he heard that Epstein was talking,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden we have this coincidental, or hanging in a cell, where all of a sudden Bill Barr has a lot of answering to do. See, this is what I'm saying to you. We concentrate on a lot of people. Yes, we know Trump's in there. We're good, but where is Bill Barr? Where is Bill Barr? And he needs to respond and answer to a lot of the stuff's going there. Where is Todd Blanche right now? We need to go after him. Right now, Maxwell should be picked up and taken out of there literally right now. As we're speaking, she should be handcuffed, taken into and transferred into a secure maximum security prison where she belongs. I mean, these are the things that need to start taking place. I mean, and there should be an outcry, not just from the people, but we need to put pressure on our congressmen and senators out there right now. The phone line should be lit. Do not let them get away with it. They need to confirm the congresswoman today. They need to make sure we get the 218 votes, and we need this onslaught to continue, because Trump, these we just saw about Trump. There's a lot more people than Trump in these emails that we're going to break down and through the next couple of hours and the next day.
Because this is just the tip of the iceberg. Obviously, they've just given us a selection of emails over a large range of dates. I mean, you're talking over, the first one was 2011, of 8 years of connection here that they're saying happened. This was an issue during the presidential campaign, that he knew about the girls as late as 2019. He was talking about it, but this is a long string of emails that suggest there's a lot more in between. When he talks about the dog that hasn't barked, was Trump the person who first connected Epstein and the police? And is that going to be his defense to all of this, that he was the guy who did this? On the other hand, you've got the president and the involved in these horrific events. Can we really have a president of the United States who was aware of a sex trafficking ring? And that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what Epstein was involved in, who was participating in the sex trafficking, who was being trafficked girls from Jeffrey Epstein, according to these emails. How can this be the president of the United States?
Well, let me ask you this. I'll give you another one, Zev. What if let's take this scenario? I hate to throw things in the air, but if we're going to connect the dots and look at these emails, I mean, what rings out to me, that knowing these people, how things work, is Epstein starts getting investigated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Acosta is in charge of the investigation.
Yep.
Pam Bondi, all of these people are still in charge in Florida, remember?
Right. Good point.
Donald Trump at that time is very involved with all of these people that happen to then later be right now a part of his administration. But let's take it back there. Now, once they start looking into Epstein, all of a sudden, what do they find? They see that this victim, this one maybe victim, maybe not a lot, but maybe this one victim happens to connect Donald Trump to Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
And what if Acosta or Pam Bondi or somebody in that, gives Don, him a call and say, "Hey, Don, you're in here."
Mm-hmm.
And what if Don turns around and says, "You know what? Let me give you some more stuff about Epstein. Bury that."
Mm-hmm. That would have
And
been
maybe
very much
that's
like them. Actually, that's what
the
those guys did.
exactly. And that's why what happens when he becomes president. The first person, Acosta, becomes part of his team,
And Pam
because he's the
Bondi
one
becomes
and
part of it this
Pam
time.
Bondi was, yeah, at
Yeah.
this time she was still part, she was head of the attorney Raga, Republican Attorney General. I mean, she became his lawyer. I mean, she was part of the team, but the first person to go be part of the administration, because the guy that really cut the deal,
Mm-hmm.
that left Trump out of there, and they gave, because put this all together with basically gave Epstein, the prosecution gave Trump out, and gave him a sweet deal all at the same time, was Acosta.
Yep. Yep.
And
It's a cost.
he gets promoted, and then as soon as the Epstein files, he gets arrested. What does Acosta do? He resigns right away.
And it's interesting when he testified the other day. I think there's plenty of evidence now to suggest that he perjured himself, because we know that the evidence that we've now received from the various court cases, and that he was aware of so many other things that he's not confessing to. He knew that there was a financial investigation underway by Maria Villafana, who was the prosecutor in the original case against Jeffrey Epstein. She had also launched a money laundering investigation at exactly the same time, leading into 2008. So around 2006, 2007, she launched a money laundering investigation that was exposing Epstein. And she did this with the feds. And that was also done away with in the same plea agreement that Acosta negotiated. So now you've got an even, a former head of Department of Labor secretary who perjured himself under oath, potentially, in front of the committee, lying about what he knew back then. And now come these additional emails, which suggest the president himself, who appointed Acosta, who later appointed Pam Bondi, that he himself was involved in this operation and maybe was trafficked people too. I mean, that's remarkable.
Well, think about how many people have been lying. You
Hmm.
got the president of the United States lying that he doesn't know anything going on, never been in Epstein's house, never been to his island, doesn't know the girls, doesn't know what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Lying, pants on fire. You got Pam Bondi, Attorney General, sitting there saying that she had the Epstein files on her desk. She saw everything. She went through with the time go. Trump is nowhere to be found. He's clean and dandy. You got Todd Blanche, the Assistant Attorney General that used to be Trump's also attorney, going sitting down having a powwow with Maxwell, not to find out any information or criminalize anybody, but to get her to go on tape and say Donald Trump is an incredible man and did nothing wrong. And
Hmm.
after that, she gets transferred, gets a puppy, and is living, gets Uber delivered to a federal prison. And
Yeah.
you got Cash Patel that was running around, and Dan Bongino, who made their whole career, money, life, and everything about this whole Epstein conspiracy, about the deep state and everything. Well, you got all of a sudden silent, nowhere to be found. Whereas Dan Bongino won't even come out and make a statement about this, which we're gonna part of the reason why I started my GoFundMe and the reason why I started my mission is to expose all these people. Because right now, Zev, right now, what we're doing right now, if I would have already been able to travel and have all of this set up, right now we should be standing in front. And somebody should be standing in front of the White House with Marjorie Taylor Greene, with big, taking those emails, blowing them up as though as big as you could
It's
make
a good
them,
idea.
postering them all over the White House. I would have Congressman Rokan, I would have Massey, I would have Marjorie Taylor Greene stand with the survivors right now from the White House. I would be screaming, Donald Trump, this is not a hoax. I would make sure that every reporter, if they don't ask a question today, when at the press conference, when Caroline Levitt at 1 o'clock goes up there and doesn't bombard them with just these emails, I would fire every single one of them. This
Yeah.
is what I'm saying to you. This is the time. If we do not put pressure, if we do not join now and start doing everything, and when we have this type of momentum, then I'm sorry, folks, there's nothing else to talk about because this
Is
is it.
This is really is it. This is the kind of information that we've all been saying for a very long time. Lev, you've been one of those voices. I've been doing this since
Yeah.
2019. I mean, I've been saying this stuff about Epstein and Trump is serious, it's big, and it can bury the president politically, of course. And when you look at this timeline and look at the extended timeline here, and you're so right about the action needing to happen, and people Lev is always asking people to join his movement. Everyone should subscribe to Lev's important Lev Remembers Substack, where he writes about this all the time, and you should absolutely support the movement that he's building here, because this kind of information, when you're talking about putting these emails blown up outside the White House or maybe on billboards around DC, so he's constantly confronted, and all these lawmakers are confronted, outside their district offices. They need to see these emails
Yeah.
all the time.
I would put this. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you, but this is I'm so passionate about this because this is what we did for MAGA. This is
Hmm.
what I'm trying to say to you. This is what I want to do to them. I know how to do this because I've implemented on the other side when we destroyed Hunter Biden's life, when we destroyed Joe Biden's life, when we went after all of these people with
Hmm.
lies, disinformation. But now we have facts.
Yeah.
I would post these emails and blow them up in the halls of Congress. I would post them in front of every congresswoman and congressman's office in front of them where they make all their signs and post all their signs. I know what to do. Right now, I would be going buying up airtime on Fox, on Newsmax, and putting out these posts of these emails and talking about and lies of their voice. I would be right now chasing down Dan Bongino and saying, "Aren't you going to comment, Dan Bongino? It's been 6 months since you made your last comment about the Epstein files. What do you?" I would force them. I would run after them, just like what Laura Loomer does on that side, just like Benny Johnson does on that side, like Alex Jones does on that side. We need to hit them with at the same tactics they go after us. But the best part is we have facts, we have truth, and we have everything on our side. So that's why I'm saying to you. That's why I'm hoping that we could build our coalition quick enough, Zev, so we could get to work and get out there and start pounding these people, because we have, and this is just, we're talking about the Epstein files. The other thing I wrote about, we're not even talking about, is the economy. What happened on November 4th, when when all the American citizens came out, and that blue wave,
Mm,
that tsunami, that was that. Just think about that momentum, and now this.
yeah.
Let's
And
go, folks. Time to wake up.
I mean, the dog that hasn't barked is quite the visual, and you could see how that would work in a billboard. The other thing that's going to come out, as I've been reporting in the Greatest Heist too, is the financial manipulation, the financial crimes, the crashing of the 2008 market that cost America $40 trillion. I mean, this is just the sex stuff, the girls, as horrific as it is just a small part of the criminal operation involved here. The much bigger part is the financial crimes, the theft of the American economy as they collapsed the market using these mortgage-backed securities, and then left so many people homeless, took away so many people's American dreams, and now they're contemplating 50-year mortgages because no one can afford homes. The reason they can't afford homes is because of the same network of people that involved Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump and all these others. So it's really important that everyone realize that this is much bigger than just these girls, even though the girls is obviously the most horrific piece of this. Really, it's kind of shocking when you see all these details. And we're going to leave it there, Lev, because I know you got to run. But I want everyone to just look at this timeline one last time. It starts with Prince Andrew's revelations in 2011. This is the first time people hear that Prince Andrew is involved with Epstein. The first time they hear about Virginia Giuffre. I mean, think about how stunning a revelation that is. How mad the Queen was at the time that her favorite son was involved in this thing. We had known that he is also responsible for helping kill the original Prince Andrew, was involved in making sure that that original case disappeared in a plea bargain with Acosta and company. And then we also know that he's no longer a prince. Now it's been 14 years, and now he's no longer a prince. They've had plenty of opportunities to make him not a prince before. They chose to do it just a few weeks ago because this is how big this is. If it's costing the prince his title, if it's costing the king's favorite brother his title, what's it going to do to the American president? You really, in that,
Well, yeah, it's up to, that's why it's up to us, the people, right now, Zev,
mm,
because the government is, corrupted. The
mm,
government is, all complicit. Most of them are, a lot of them are going to be in these emails, and a lot of them are going to be part of it. I mean, we've already seen pieces of, the Bannon, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel emails, leaks come, I'm saying to you, and that's just the beginning and the tip of the iceberg. We saw the Mellon family, all of a sudden give $130 million to Donald Trump to help him out. We know that Mellon Bank was part of some of the corruption. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, and that is why it is so imperative for every single one of you out there to not to just sit back and say, "Oh, we're doing great." This is no. We need to keep pushing. This is the time where we push harder. We go stronger. We go louder. We go out there. We make sure to unite our voices, because my movement, what I'm putting together, it's not me, myself, and I. It's us, a
mm,
teamwork. It's part of Zev. It's going to be Dean. It's going to be Mike. It's going to be Malcolm. It's going to be all of these people. Miles Taylor, Olivia Troy, you name it. We're going out there and we are going to expose this truth. But the difference, what we're going to do compared to a lot of other people, is they don't know Donald Trump and his inner world. They weren't part of that making of MAGA. They don't know how to fight fire with fire. Yes, Gavin Newsom is doing a little bit of it, but he's in his echo chamber. He's not reaching out to the rest of the world, because as far as the rest of the world, he's considered a leftist that nobody wants to listen to. But we don't have that, because they consider me still, at one point I was one of their own. And that's the advantage that we have, because they will listen and we will debate and we will talk. And as long as I have you behind me, and as long as we have the platform to be able to go do it, I know the strings that we need to push, and we're going to start doing it. Some of them are even minor. Like I said, blowing up these emails right now and posting them all over the Congress halls. Think about what happened with Hunter Biden. What did we do? Marjorie Taylor Greene and everybody blew up pictures of Hunter Biden and
Mm,
all
that's
over
right.
Congress.
They should be all
Same
over
thing.
that committee hearings
Same
today.
thing. Same thing.
Whenever
We
they
should have
can, they should
pictures.
be pushing these things
Exactly.
out.
Pictures of Epstein. Right now, when they're sitting in Congress, they should be putting up pictures like she did of Hunter Biden, of Melania Trump and Epstein and Donald Trump standing up there. A picture of the emails going up. Believe me, I know how to get them and how to do it where they're not going to be sitting there talking to you about how they're, going to have ICE attack you or do this. They're going to be sitting there at each other's throats, just like you saw them a week ago before
Mm.
we had these 8 deserters change this whole narrative. If after November 4th, if you saw Donald Trump, he was at their throats, he was threatening them, telling them to go nuclear. They were all on their hides, we were on the offense. That's where we need to get. Today is the day where we need to push it and make it stronger and louder. And please make sure you subscribe to Zev Shalev, because I mean, the guy's been following them since 2019. And then this is, like you said, there's a lot more behind this that's going to be uncovering the financial crimes. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, folks. I want you to make sure that you go hit the button, subscribe. Make sure you also put your notifications on, because all day today we're going to be breaking a lot of stuff. I mean, my phone right now is lit up. So as soon as I
Yeah.
get off of here, I'm going to go make phone calls, find out what's going on in Trump world. We're going to be bringing it to you live and telling you what's going on. But there is chaos going on. We have the momentum. Keep it going. This is the time. Push it harder, stronger. Give it a little bit more. Just when you think you don't have enough, squeeze a little bit more. Because I promise you, come 2026, when we take back the House and hopefully the Senate, that's when our world comes back to normality and we start building back to everything he's tried to destroy.
Just adding to what you're saying there tonight, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, and a bunch of other Wall Street executives who were involved in that 2008 crash are all going to be at the White House. Donald Trump has called them
Oh,
all for a meeting. I wonder why. So that's going to be an interesting conversation they have today. We'll also follow the White House press conference. Lev Remembers is a must subscribe for everybody watching. Thank you, Lev, for spending the time with us today. You're doing important work in terms of building up the resistance against Donald Trump and exposing these very things the way MAGA was used to expose Hunter Biden and others. You're suggesting that you're going to use those same tools now against Donald Trump. And these are the things that he understands. He understands these kinds of tactics, and hopefully that has an impact. Well, thank you so much, Lev. I really
100.
appreciate your time. Really terrific stuff, and
Zev,
thanks for being here today.
absolutely love you, brother. And I'll see you later on today. Take care, man.
Cheers, man. Have a good one. And that's Lev Parnas leaving us now. I'm going to just spend one more minute here just reviewing what we've been talking about here. These are such significant emails. This is not a mistake that they've come out today. They will raise lots of questions for a lot of people. You're looking at a accelerated timeline of activity here, where you've got this 2011. These when these emails first came out. After Prince Andrew, after the Epstein connection was first uncovered by the Mail on Sunday, then you had these other range of events that started off with this first email where Epstein um, emails Ghislaine, and she says she's thinking about that very thing, and then also mentions that this is about the dog that has barked. I'm going to put up that email for you so we can just take a look at it one last time. I actually can't believe we are seeing all of this out in public. Um, this is on the 2nd of April, I believe, 2011 at 7:09 p.m. Ghislaine says, I've been thinking about that. That's after Jeffrey Epstein earlier that day sent to her on a Saturday. I want you to realize that I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump, meaning Trump is the one who is bringing the case against Jeffrey Epstein to the police. That's what I read out of that. I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump, which means he is not implicated in the investigation. And because he is that dog that hasn't barked, it's potentially possible that Trump was fingering his friend, bad choice of words there, but ultimately pointing a finger at Jeffrey Epstein about this dog that hasn't barked, meaning he was the one who potentially, as Epstein had always thought, that Trump was the one who turned him over to the cops. And here is an indication in Epstein's own words that he is, in fact, that very person that he suspected. Wow, what a dramatic, new, and important piece of evidence. Just that one line is that dog that hasn't barked. Then he goes on to say that a victim, it could be any victim, it could be Jeffrey, it could be anybody else, we're not sure. Actually, not Jeffrey, I don't think she said she ever did that. But so and so, the victim, redacted, spent hours at my house with him, meaning with Donald Trump. He has never once been mentioned. So he has not come up once by the police chief or anybody else. He's saying, Jeffrey Epstein, he's telling Ghislaine Maxwell that he is 75% sure that Donald Trump was the one who gave the orders. Who gave the orders? I wouldn't say because he couldn't give the orders, but who gave the evidence against Jeffrey Epstein. He was the person who may have been originally targeted, but he instead, later on, we were thinking maybe he is the one who told cops, who told the police chief about Jeffrey Epstein and the women. This was a suspicion that Michael Wolff, who seems to have been in great contact with Jeffrey Epstein throughout the years, which is another whole line of questioning, which really needs to be understood. And we're giving him some latitude here, but there's a room for a significant amount of criticism about what Michael Wolff has done here. But at this point, we know that Michael Wolff shared with everybody on several occasions that Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein suspected that Donald Trump was the one who turned him over to the police. And here we see Jeffrey Epstein saying exactly that, but also saying he was involved in those very same crimes. So, Trump is going to try spin this as, well, I wasn't involved. I was never in, and this is just Epstein, suggesting that I did that, or he's going to say, yeah, I'm the guy who turned him in because I was so appalled by everything he did. It doesn't matter. He was involved in all these things for years, not just on this date, which is exactly what Epstein is saying from the grave here, as it were, explaining to everybody what many of us have wanted to know. This is a very significant email that's being rolled out at just this very specific time. She says, I have been thinking about that, meaning she has been wondering if it's in fact Donald Trump. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell right now is sitting at a luxury camp prison in Texas, in Bryan. She knows all this. She lived all this. She didn't say any of this to Todd Blanche when he interviewed her, which suggests she was lying to Todd Blanche. We, of course, know all that. She says that Donald Trump was always the gentleman. She didn't say Donald Trump was the guy who ultimately reported my friend Jeffrey Epstein to the police. She didn't say that. She said he was always a gentleman, and she got a sweetheart deal for that, didn't she? Again, it looks like there's a conspiracy here to cover up this entire affair, and that Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and the rest of the Trump administration and the Republicans in Congress, frankly, could be involved in a cover-up right now, as we speak, are involved in a cover-up. And they have allowed a deal, which is an obstruction of justice deal, to allow someone who should not be at a minimum security prison camp, who's a sex criminal, to be at that prison camp. These are very significant things. As we're watching the House return to government now to do the shutdown vote, and then the Epstein scandal continues. We'll try to bring you that live. Look, these are very important emails. I'm going to spend one more time just looking at this second email. This is to 29. Let's go back to the 2015 one, just so it's all consecutive. This is when Donald Trump is running for the presidency. He's in the primaries. This is debate night, believe it or not, debate night in 2015. And because of this question that comes from Jeffrey Epstein to Michael Wolff, he says, I hear CNN. How does he hear CNN? How does he know this from CNN? Is planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you afterwards. Oh, sorry, this is Michael Wolff to Jeffrey Epstein. Even more curious, how does he know? How does Michael Wolff know this about what CNN is going to be asking? Then he says, Jeffrey Epstein in response says, if we're able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Now, can he craft an answer for him? Is he allowed to craft an answer for him? And then he gives out these three options. Michael Wolff advising the president, advising Jeffrey Epstein about how they can get themselves out of this situation where Epstein might be asked about Donald Trump. And so it's interesting. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein sometimes could be seen working together, sometimes could be seen to be working against each other. But Michael Wolff's response leads, will be asked, scrutinized by everybody right now, because what did he know that he's not revealed before? clearly he was advising Jeffrey Epstein here on what should happen, maybe even advising Donald Trump on what should happen. He seems to be on the side of Epstein in this conversation here. He says, I think you should let him hang himself if he says he hasn't been on the plane. It'll give you valuable PR and political currency. In other words, use it to work with his opponents or use it to get a benefit or reward from him to save Donald Trump, which is exactly what it appears Ghislaine Maxwell has done. Unbelievable. And of course, we have heard Trump say that Jeffrey is a great guy. We've heard him say that many, many, many times, which is interesting. It's interesting that he said those words, and he said that as well about Ghislaine. And then comes this bombshell of an email from 2019. It's January the 31st. Michael Wolff is getting an email from Jeffrey Epstein months before he dies, months before he's arrested. And it says, victim was at Mar-a-Lago. Victim is redacted. He says, Trump said he asked me to resign, meaning he asked me to resign Mar-a-Lago. But he was never a member there ever. So how could he ask for the resignation? Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. So again, this confirms what Donald Trump said on Air Force One, that he had found out that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein was stealing his girls, including Virginia Giuffre, which he termed as property, almost stolen. That's such a bizarre choice of words. What are we really seeing here? We're seeing confirmation that he knew about the girls. And of course, the timeline here is critical because Donald Trump gives us that timeline. I think it was 2002, 2003, or maybe I'll have to correct myself. I'm going to find out the timeline of that initial event. And of course, we know that it took 4 years before their friendship ended in 2008. So I'm going to say 2004 was when Trump told Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell to stop stealing his property, his girls, whatever he called them. Horrific use and choice of words. He was referring to the late Virginia Giuffre, a victim of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, who, of course, was found having committed suicide a few months ago. It's clear to me here that what we're seeing is confirmation of that event. That event happened in 2004, and yet they were still friends until 2008. They were still doing business until 2008. So the president may have been concerned, but he didn't cut off ties. He didn't stop seeing Jeffrey Epstein. He didn't report any of this to the police. Then it sounds like he did that maybe as late as 2011 or 2006, perhaps. But it's hard to know exactly at what point Donald Trump would have started working with the police, perhaps in order to stop an investigation into himself, or perhaps just as retribution. We just don't know any of these questions. But it seems that buried in all of this is a friendship that turned very, very bad when Donald Trump maybe cooperated with prosecutors and investigators against Jeffrey Epstein. We don't know. I'm surmising a lot of that, but that's, I think, what Epstein is saying with the dog that hasn't barked. All right, that's the analysis that we can give you right now of these emails. It's bombshell stuff, as you know. My thanks to Lev Parnas for joining us in this reporting today. Lev is full of the right stuff when it comes to bringing it to this administration the way they did to the previous administration. He certainly was there when MAGA was building itself up. Now he's trying to use the same tactics against President Trump, knowing what he knows about Donald Trump from the inside out. It is important that we all stay unified right now. Those of us who are opposed to fascism, who are opposed to the end of democracy, who are opposed to this totalitarian rule that this administration is bringing us, that we stay united and that we stay focused on the prize. And that prize really is an end to this regime. And we can't say that in a way that's, violent or anything like that. We're not suggesting that at all. But the rule of law has to be paramount in America. No one is above the law. If the law has been broken here, and maybe it has, it certainly cost Prince Andrew his title. If the law has been broken here, something needs to be done to make sure that this outlaw regime is a potentially outlawed regime is not in power anymore. As we pointed out today, Alex Acosta, Pam Bondi, all these people, Alex Acosta lying under oath, that needs to be investigated and done so immediately. Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, all these others who basically constructed a cover up. Everyone in Congress right now, including Michael Johnson, who's delayed the signing, the swearing in of Adelita Grijalva. All these people need to be absolutely scrutinized in a dramatic way, as we need to understand why this cover up was allowed to go, the president's role in activating this cover up, because he clearly had a role in coordinating and activating this cover up. And the cover up is bigger than the crime. Often it's often the crime itself. We don't need evidence of all the other stuff. Knowing that he has potentially obstructed justice in the way that he has is potentially enough for us to all understand that this was exactly what Nixon did in Watergate. They went in to cover up the evidence. They went in here to cover up the evidence. They were trying to cover up the connection between Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, which we see here. And remember this incredible video, which we'll play back a little later on, how close these two were in 1992 and all the way through 2008. They were such good friends. This was a party at Mar-a-Lago where Jeffrey Epstein says he was never a member, but where Donald Trump said recently Epstein and Ghislaine stole one of his masseuses from the massage spa over there, and he called that property. He was furious at that. There's also another page in the book of the 50th birthday book that Epstein received where it looks like they're at Mar-a-Lago, and someone looks like they've bought someone for $21,000 or $28,000. We'll show you that a little later on today as well. And finally, these are the survivors. This is where we end, because these are the people who deserve this justice more than anybody else. It's hard to say enough about how many people have suffered because of the actions of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. These women have put in years of effort to try and expose all of this. These women are the victims who suffered so much, the trauma that some of these women have suffered throughout their lives and have been re-traumatized time and time again by every news cycle that's come out, by being treated like just pawns on a chessboard rather than real human beings by these people like Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, and Ghislaine Maxwell. And these are the women who deserve closure, who deserve justice more than anything else. They are the women who have fought so hard to keep this alive. And there are thousands, or at least 1,000 of them, men and women, who have suffered at the hands of this blackmail ring, this blackmail operation that was also covering a incredible financial scam, a financial crime that was taking place. It involves a lot of the very senior people in our society, and it's going to take a lot of careful investigation and understanding to clean up America, to bring it back to where it was. But mostly, these victims need some sort of closure. They need some resolution, and they need to feel safe in their lives. They have been targets and victims, and targeted in so many ways by many very powerful people around the world who just wanted to keep them quiet. And they need their day in court. They need to have justice, and they need restitution for everything that they've lost. Many people have lost decades of their lives here and may never, ever reclaim the lives that they should have had or could have had because of the intense traumatic pain that this has caused them throughout their lives. So I'm going to leave it there on the victims, and thank you very much for being here today on this coverage of this breaking news as we're analyzing all this new information. We'll keep doing it all afternoon. As new stuff comes out, we'll be here to report it. Thanks again for joining me here on Narrative on Substack. We'll get to a 5-stack at some point, hopefully from Nashville, if Dean gets back. But on that note, we leave you with this image of the survivors, the women who really deserve justice in all of this. Thank you for watching this breaking news coverage of the Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump emails.